Chapter 508, One Step Too Late 2. When they heard the leader's words, everyone understood their leader's intention and followed him. Since they didn't have cars, after they left the gas station, they could only search the abandoned cars on the road. It took them 2 hours before they finally left the gas station in several cars. Meanwhile, Lee Sikai and his team had already met with the team sent by the base. Unlike them, the team didn't use cars and instead sent 5 military choppers. At this moment, the space-type ability users were busy loading the supplies into the military choppers. With the addition of the space-type ability users, they managed to take away all the supplies in one trip. Watching 4 military choppers take off and fly back to the base, Lee Sikai said, "Sergeant Wang, please inform the survivors to avoid this area in the next few days." Hearing this, Wang He frowned and asked, "Comrade Lee, what is the situation?" "We noticed that the number of zombies is increasing even while we are killing them. We suspect that there is a high-level zombie in this area that controls the lower-level zombies," Lee Sikai explained. Wang He was surprised when he heard this. He knew that a high-level zombie was dangerous, not only because its regeneration rate, defense, and attack power were higher than lower-level zombies, but also because of its ability to control the lower-level zombies. While it sounded simple, with a commander leading the zombies, their attack pattern would be more orderly and their overall strength would increase. After all, scattered sand possessed no danger compared to a block of brick. Reaching this conclusion, Wang He asked, "Comrade Lei, do you need a support team?" Lee Sikai considered for a moment before he shook his head and replied, "There is no need for it. My team can still handle it. If we need any reinforcement, we will contact the vice commander." When he heard this, Wang He didn't insist and said, "All right, I will report this matter to the vice commander. If your team finds more supplies, please let us know. We are currently running low on supplies after the zombie attack." "My team will do our best to assist the base," Lee Sikai nodded. "Be careful and good luck." Wang He gave them a salute before he boarded the military chopper and returned to the base with his team. Chen Wenwu was also taken back to the base for further treatment. After they left, Lee Sikai checked his watch and said, "It's not early anymore, let's go." "Understood," the members nodded and went to the eastern area to continue their mission. Half an hour later, several cars parked in the rest area's parking lot. Not long after, a group of people came out and were surprised to see that there were no zombies in this area. Staring at the empty area, a woman asked, "Brother, there are no zombies here. Is the apocalypse already over?" The leader shook his head and said, "We are late. Just now I saw several military choppers flying above us. I thought they were just passing by. It seems they came here for supplies." When everyone heard this, they felt regret. If only they had come out a day earlier, they might have been able to claim this place. But now that the military had already been here, the possibility for them to get supplies was low. Noticing their expressions, the leader said, "We are one step too late. Check the stores first. If we are lucky, we might be able to get some supplies." The group nodded and rummaged through the stores. Right now, besides betting on their luck, they had no other choice. Meanwhile, at the Linen City base, Zhang Yuan and his team were waiting for Zai Zhou and his team. At 9 o'clock in the morning, a group of ability users led by Zai Zhou finally arrived. Seeing them coming, Zhang Yuan said, "Captain Zai, it will take 2 hours to reach the Conservation Mountain." Zai Zhou nodded and replied, "Then we should depart now." "Okay." The team left the base followed by several cars. Besides the guards, the base also hired D-rank and C-rank mercenary teams. With the addition of several mercenaries who didn't join any team, they had a total of 56 people, including Zhang Yuan and his team. When they were on their way, Cheng Rui looked out the window and asked the guard sitting in front of him, "Comrade, what kind of mutant plant needs so many people to kill it?" Since it was not confidential information, the guard replied, "From the information we have, it is a mutant banyan tree. Judging from the size and attack power, it should be at least a level 4 mutant plant. When we arrive at the location, make sure to keep your guard up and be careful. The mutant plant's attack range covers half a mountain," the guard added. When the hired mercenaries heard this, they were taken aback. They only applied for this job because the reward was 500 points. While the staff member reminded them that the risk of this mission was high, they didn't put too much thought into it. After all, with so many people, even if it was an A-rank mission, they wouldn't lose their lives. But now that they heard the seriousness in the guard's tone, they started to feel worried. What if this mutant banyan tree was much more dangerous than they thought? It was not easy for them to finally have a comfortable life, so they didn't want to die. Sitting beside his brother, Cheng Yue noticed the change in their moods, but he said nothing. Since they had taken the job, they had to bear the consequences. As for him and his brother, the two of them were bored and running out of food. So they took this mission to relieve their boredom and also to check the strength of the Linen City base. If the base members were too weak, they would not be able to survive for a long time, and they had to prepare a backup plan. When Zhang Yuan's team and Zai Zhou's team arrived at the Conservatory Mountains, it was already 11 o'clock in the morning. Since everyone had eaten before leaving the base, they didn't rest and went directly to the mountain. Due to the lush canopies of the tall trees, the sunlight barely penetrated the mountains. With the dim illumination, the mountain was damp and cooler than outside. An hour later, Zhang Yuan pointed at one of the trees and said, "Captain Zai, after we walk past this tree, we will enter the attack range area of the mutant banyan tree." Hearing this, Zai Zhou turned to his team and said, "Everyone, be careful." While the ability users didn't take his words to heart, the guards pulled out their blades and replied in unison, "Understood." Seeing this, the Phantom team members didn't say anything and pulled out their weapons. Since everyone was ability users, they increased their speed and reached the area where they were attacked yesterday in half an hour. This time, they didn't walk on the ground but leaped from one tree to another. At first, everyone was confused by this, but when they were 100 meters away from the mutant banyan tree, they finally understood the reason. With so many vines and roots crawling on the ground, they would end up as the mutant tree's fertilizer if they walked on the ground. Zai Zhou observed the situation for a while before he asked, "Vice Captain Zhang, we will follow your plan." Zhang Yuan nodded and exchanged glances with his team members. The next moment, Fu Guari suddenly leaped into the air and flew toward the mutant banyan tree. When the members saw this, they quickly followed him. Before they even got close to the mutant banyan tree, the vines crawling on the ground were already shooting toward them at a fast speed. Fu Guari was tasked to pull and keep the attention of the mutant tree so his team would have time to enter its attack range. So when he saw that the vines attacked the members, he raised his hand and several fireballs the size of watermelons flew toward the mutant tree. Boom, booms, boom. While the attack power of the skill he copied was only 70%, it was enough to burn most of the vines. As the fireballs exploded upon contact, they blew off a small part of the roots. The mutant tree was enraged and swung its thick roots at Fu Guari. Seeing the incoming attack, he flipped his body and dodged. The next moment, he flew toward the mutant tree and swung his arms. Crash, crash. Thanks to his sharp nails, the vines aiming at him were cut off. Green liquid spurted out from the broken part and stained the ground. As soon as the green liquid touched the rotten leaves on the ground, a sizzling sound was heard. When Zhang Yuan and the rest of the team arrived, they saw this. "Be careful, the green liquid is corrosive," Yin Yusheng reminded them. Hearing this, Cheng Rui's eyes lit up. The corner of his lips lifted as he muttered, "This is interesting." "Keep a low profile," Cheng Yue reminded him. "I know." Before he even finished his words, he had already dashed toward the mutant tree. At the same time, the bracelets on his wrists turned into countless 20-centimeter needles. With a wave of his hands, the needles flew toward the massive trunk and pierced it. Stab, stab, stab. When the other mercenaries saw this, they sneered, and one of them said, "Foolish, do you think your small needles can deal any damage to this massive tree?" Just after he said this, Cheng Rui raised his hand and sneered. The next moment, he swung his hand down. Crack, boom. A thick lightning bolt suddenly descended from above the mutant tree and struck it directly. With the metal needles acting as current conductors, the lightning spread to every part of the tree at a frightening speed. The mutant tree let out a high-pitched shriek as its inside was burned by the lightning attack. Not only did it suffer damage, its movement also slowed down. Seeing the opening, Yin Yusheng and Pei Yixi dashed toward the mutant tree and stabbed their weapons into the thick trunk. Unfortunately, the tree bark was tough and they failed to pierce it. Noticing this, both of them glanced at Cheng Rui. They wondered what level he was. Both of them were level 1 ability users and couldn't even break the tree bark, but he was able to pierce it with his needles easily. It was rare for him to fight a high-level enemy, so Cheng Rui forgot his brother's reminder and went all out. With a wave of his hand, the metal needles flew back and changed shape. In less than 3 seconds, the needles merged and turned into 5 metal rods. As he dodged the vine's attack, he spread the rods and placed them around the mutant tree. The moment Cheng Yue saw this, he knew what his brother wanted to do. If it had been before, he wouldn't have stopped him. But now there were lots of people around the mutant tree. If he used this move, he would not only damage the mutant tree, but also injure those around it. Reaching this conclusion, he shouted, "Everyone, retreat!" As soon as they heard this, the guards and most of the mercenaries quickly distanced themselves from the mutant tree, leaving several mercenaries who ignored his warning. Noticing that his brother had already finished his preparation, Cheng Yue no longer had time to warn them. He quickly raised his hands and built an earth wall around the mutant tree. The moment the wall was built, the sky darkened, and several lightning bolts as thick as tree trunks struck down. Crack, boom, 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 boom. The attack was so strong that it shook the ground. The lightning not only burned the mutant tree's canopy, but also turned the vines, roots, and nearby vegetation into ashes. Standing outside the earth wall, Zhang Yuan narrowed his eyes as he stared at the Cheng Rui and Cheng Yue. Cheng Yue waved his hands and the earth wall turned into sand. Everyone thought that the mutant banyan tree had been killed by the attack just now. Unexpectedly, the moment the earth wall disappeared, countless vines rushed toward them. "Dodge!" Aitg shouted as he waved his hands. The next moment, several wind blades flew toward the vines. Crash, crash, crash. The wind blades cut off the vines instantly. While most of them managed to dodge, some of them were caught. The moment the vines wrapped around their ankles, they retreated back to the mutant tree. "Axe, help me!" Those who were caught didn't have time to free themselves before being pulled into a hole hidden under the mutant tree. Soon after they were dragged inside, the thick scent of blood wafted in the air. At the same time, the burning parts of the mutant tree healed at a speed clear to the naked eye. "This is bad, the tree can regenerate," Yin Yusheng exclaimed. Fu Guari narrowed his eyes when he heard this. Before everyone could react, he dashed toward the mutant tree. "Brother Fu," Pei Yixi shouted in shock. The next moment, Fu Guari's body was wrapped by the vines, and he was pulled into the hole. Seeing this, Zhang Yuan and Aitg no longer held back and said, "Attack." Realizing the danger, the hired mercenaries were finally willing to listen to orders. Thanks to this, their teamwork improved, and they managed to avoid the mutant tree's attacks while dealing more damage. While they were fighting fiercely outside, Fu Guari broke free from the vines using his brute force. Unlike other ability users, he was a mutant, so when he stood inside the hole, the mutant tree didn't detect his energy and stopped attacking him. He opened his palm and created a small wisp of fire to illuminate his surroundings. Under his feet were piles of bones. As he stepped on them, the sound of bones cracking echoed in the closed area. He looked around for 10 minutes before he finally found the mutant tree's crystal core. The crystal core was a deep green color, but emitted a bright light. After he extinguished the wisp of fire, he reached out toward it. The moment his fingers touched the crystal core, the mutant banyan tree suddenly let out a high-pitched shriek and crashed around wildly. It was as if it knew that danger was near, and it tried to save itself. The vines that had ignored Fu Guari before suddenly wrapped around his body. This time, he didn't let them trap him and created a fire barrier around his body. When the vines touched the fire, they burned and turned into ashes. Knowing that his time was limited, he reached out and tore off the crystal core from the mutant tree's body. As soon as he took it, a thick root hit his chest with a loud sound. "Duag! Cough!" Fu Guari slammed into the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. Outside the hole, Pei Yixi heard Fu Guari's thoughts and shouted, "Vice Captain, cut open the trunk." As soon as she said this, Aitg, Zhang Yuan, and the Cheng brothers attacked the mutant tree trunk at the same time. Boom, booms, boom. The result of their attacks was a devastating explosion that not only blew off half of the mutant tree, but also sent the nearby mercenaries flying. The energy waves spread across the mountain, causing dust to fly and trees to fall. Standing 20 meters away from the mutant tree, Cheng Yue frowned. He felt the mutant tree suddenly become weak. While he was lost in his thoughts, Zhang Yuan, Yin Yusheng, and Pei Yixi had already started digging to search for Fu Guari. After digging for 5 minutes, they finally found him unconscious. Yin Yusheng quickly held his wrist and used his energy to heal his wounds. Perhaps his little sunflower felt his energy fluctuation, so Kui appeared on the back of his palm. Seeing the unconscious mutant, it showed disdain in its expression. But since its master wanted to save him, it reluctantly gathered its healing energy and spat on Fu Guari's wounds. 5 minutes later, the wounds on Fuguari's body were mostly healed. Under normal circumstances, QA would return to Yin Yusheng's body after it had healed Fuguari's wounds. But this time, before it returned, it suddenly detected a pure, dense wood energy from Fuguari's pocket. Noticing QA's strange movement, Yin Yusheng asked, "QA, what's wrong?" Before he could check on it, QA suddenly detached its root from Yin Yusheng's body and jumped into Fuguari's body. Then, it burrowed into one of his pants pockets. A few seconds later, it came out with a crystal core the size of a marble. Yin Yusheng was taken aback when he saw this and said, "QA, that's Brother Fu's crystal core, you can't take it." As if it were afraid that its master would take away the crystal, a slit suddenly appeared on its disc florets. The next moment, Yin Yusheng saw his QA swallow the crystal core. "Hey, QA." He tried to stop it, but it was too late. As soon as it swallowed the crystal core, the little sunflower glowed like a light bulb. With the energy raging inside its body, it quickly burrowed into Yin Yusheng's body and went into a deep sleep. At this moment, Zhang Yuan, Pei Yixi, and Zai Zhou were stunned by what they saw. It took them a while to regain their composure. Meeting their gaze, Yin Yusheng asked, "Do you think Brother Fu will forgive me if I apologize?" Pei Yixi shook her head and replied, "I don't know." Zhang Yuan let out a sigh and said, "Since we finished our mission, let's go back first." Zai Zhou nodded in agreement, and after they treated the wounded, they went down the mountain and returned to the base. Sitting inside one of the cars, Cheng Rui nudged his brother and whispered, "Brother, did you see that little sunflower?" Cheng Yue glanced at his brother and replied in a low voice, "Don't provoke them." "I didn't mean anything, I just find that little sunflower interesting," Cheng Rui said. "Don't you know who that girl is? If you don't want the facility to find us, you better lay low," Cheng Yue reminded him. "I know, don't worry." While their team was on the way back to the base, Mo Junji finally got the test result. He stretched his tired muscles and pinched the bridge of his nose before he took the documents and left the laboratory. When the staff saw him leaving, they greeted him and continued their work. It was common for them to spend days inside the laboratory during their research or experiments, so no one said a word when they saw him spend more than 2 days in the lab. Soon after he left, the guard informed Wen Hanley. In the past 2 days, Mo Junji only took a break when he needed to eat or go to the toilet. Besides that, he only slept for 2 to 3 hours every day. Before he returned to his house, Mo Junji went to the central ring area. 40 minutes later, he arrived at the central office building. Instead of going to his office, he handed the documents to the staff in the lobby and said, "Comrade, this is the document Vice Commander Wen wants." The staff glanced at the emblem on his collar and replied with a smile, "Comrade, I will inform the Vice Commander. Please wait a moment." Hearing this, Mo Junji waved his hand and said, "No need, just give the documents to him. I'm going back." As soon as he finished speaking, he turned and left in sluggish steps. He was so tired that his eyelids refused to obey his command. He forced himself to stay awake as he rode his bicycle back. Half an hour later, he was already lying on his couch and snoring loudly. He didn't even bother to change his clothes or go to his room to sleep. At the same time, when Hanley was reading the report given by Mo Junji, after a while, he closed the folder and made a phone call. "Call Chin Luzi and Wang He for a meeting in my office." Understood. While waiting for them, when Hanley put aside the reports and checked the list of supplies brought back from the rest area, with the addition of these supplies, they would be able to hold on until the first harvest. 15 minutes later, he heard a knock on the door and raised his head. "Come in." Opening the door, Chin Luzi and Wang He entered the office together. After Wang He gave him a salute, when Hanley gestured for them to take a seat and handed a folder to them. "This is the report from Mo Junji, take a look." When they heard this, both of them exchanged glances and took turns reading the documents. 5 minutes later, Chin Luzi closed the folder and placed it on the table. "It seems that our worst prediction has come true," he said with a frown. "Since the zombie virus was not found in the corpses, we have to expand our search area," Wang He said. "Wang He, your team will assist Comrade Chin and expand the search area. Besides the residential complex, search the safe perimeter outside the base too," Wen Hanley said after a moment of silence. "Understood," Wang He nodded. Chin Luzi thought for a moment and said, "Vice Commander Wen, it will be difficult if the base depends only on us to search for the source of the zombified maggots." Wen Hanley raised his eyebrows when he heard this and asked, Comrade Chin, do you have any suggestions? How about we let the residents help? Whoever reports any anomalies in the base will receive rewards after the base confirms the report, Chin Luzi said. Hearing this, when Hanley nodded and said, "This is a good idea. I will inform the mission hall and let them post the notice as soon as possible." Chin Luzi stood up after hearing this and said, "If there is nothing else, I will go patrol the base." "I will leave this matter to both of you," when Hanley nodded. After leaving the office building, Chin Luzi went straight to the fourth ring residential area. Unlike the second and third ring areas, the fourth ring area had a larger population. Due to this, it was easier for people with bad intentions to mingle in. To avoid drawing unwanted attention, he wore a black t-shirt, black sweatpants, and put on a baseball cap. While his outfit was not uncommon, not many could afford it. When people saw his neat appearance, they would think twice before troubling him. This way, it saved him a lot of time dealing with thieves or rogues. As he walked, he checked the map in his mind. The white dots and green dots mixed together, with white dots as the majority. He continued strolling through the residential area for several hours before he finally saw one red dot at the corner of the area. Following the map, he ended up at the end of a dark alley. He double-checked his map and was sure that the red dot was in this place. He observed his surroundings for a while before he waved his hand. The next moment, a gust of wind blew away the dust and trash scattered in the alley. Narrowing his eyes, he squatted down and saw a small hole at the corner of the wall. Trapped in the hole was a fat, rotten maggot. He took out a glass tube and tweezers from his pocket. Using the tweezers, he picked up the zombie maggot and put it inside the glass tube before sealing it. Afterward, he bent his knees and leaped up. Standing on top of the wall, his eyes turned cold when his gaze landed on the scattered parts of human bodies on the ground. Taking out his satellite phone, Chin Luzi made a call. Soon after, the call was picked up and Wang He's voice was heard from the other side. "Hello, Sergeant Wang, please come to the fourth ring residential area, District G. I found something. I will be there in 15 minutes. As soon as he said this, the call was cut off. While waiting for him, Chin Luzi created a small tornado and gathered all the scattered flesh into one place. Then, he jumped down from the wall and checked the area. This area had been left untouched, as it would be used as a canal to connect the water supplies after the fourth wall was done. According to the plan, the canal project would only start in 1 or 2 months. He never expected that someone would use this place to commit crimes. After he walked for 20 minutes, he suddenly heard faint whispers coming from the distance. Thinking about the possibility that the ones in the distance were the suspects, he lightened his steps and moved closer. He hid behind a wall 20 meters away from the source of the voices. To cover his presence, he created a barrier by changing the atomic components in his surroundings. Not far from him, a woman suddenly turned and stared at the wall warily. Seeing this, the man standing beside her asked in a low voice, "What's wrong?" The woman observed the area for a while before she replied, "It's nothing. I might be too tired lately and overthinking." When the man heard this, he said, "It's only 3 weeks since you joined this mission, and you are already at your limit. It's better for you to go back and stay at the base." The woman's face darkened when she heard this, and she retorted, "Watch your words. I came under Commander Pei's order. Before we complete our mission, I won't go back." "Then you should do your part better. Did you know that the thing you did last time alarmed Sun Chi and his men?" The man snorted. "You can't blame me for this. If not for your men's mistakes, would they know about this?" The woman replied, unwilling to be blamed. "All right, let's stop blaming each other. Now what should we do?" the man asked, annoyance clear in his voice. "Right now, we only know that the last signal from our agent came from this base, but we couldn't pinpoint the exact location of Subject 88. From the information we have, Subject 88 might be hidden by Sun Chi in a secret laboratory," the woman said. "So you want to divert their attention and manpower using this matter and search for the secret laboratory?" the man asked with a hint of realization. "Well, we still haven't found the exact location of the secret laboratory, but with the security weakened, it makes it easier for us to move," the woman nodded. "Understood. I will inform our people and let them search for the secret laboratory." "Good. If there is nothing important, don't come find me. If we are exposed, everything we did will be in vain and we might drag Commander Pei Zun into this matter," the woman warned him. "I know what to do, don't worry," the man replied and left the place. Hiding behind the wall, Chin Luzi finally understood what was going on. Since they were spies, there was no way he would let them go. With a snap of his fingers, the atoms around them changed, and the sound of explosions echoed in the area. Booms, boom! The woman and the man never expected that they were exposed and were caught off guard by the sneak attacks. While the explosions didn't kill them, they were severely wounded and lost consciousness from the pain. Without wasting time, Chin Luzi dashed toward them and tied them up using a rope he found nearby. When Wang He arrived, he was taken aback to see two injured people tied up like dumplings near the piles of mutilated body parts. Comrade Chin, these are spies sent by Pei Zun. They are the ones responsible for this case, Chin Luzi replied. When Wang He and his team members heard this, their eyes turned cold. It was common for leaders to send spies to other bases and learn about the situation there, but for them to kill the survivors and put other bases at risk, it was unforgivable. With this thought, Wang He glanced at his subordinate and said, "Put them in the underground dungeon and clean up this place. I will report this matter to the vice commander." Understood, the guards replied in unison. Before leaving, Chin Luzi handed a glass tube to him and said, "I already checked this area. There are no zombie maggots besides this one." The moment Wang He saw the zombie maggot inside the tube, he felt his skin crawl. He handed the tube to one of his subordinates and said, "Send it to the laboratory." The guard felt goosebumps rise when he saw the maggot spitting out larvae inside the tube. Understood, he replied stiffly and left in large strides. After handing the matter to Wang He, Chin Luzi continued patrolling the area in the fourth ring. At noon, the Phantom team members and Zai Zhou's team returned to the base. The moment they reported to the mission hall, they received 500 points as their reward. As for those who died during the mission, the reward was given to their family members if they resided in the base. Zhang Yuan and his team also returned to their houses. Since Zhou Huajian was still on a mission, Yin Yusheng was alone at home. After taking his shower and changing into a set of clean clothes, he sat on his bed and checked Qiuqi's condition using his energy. At this moment, the small green dot located near his core was emitting a soft light. Knowing that his sunflower was sleeping and didn't show any strangeness, Yin Yusheng heaved a sigh of relief and took out the moss he had gathered before. He didn't know why Qiuqi insisted on gathering these mosses, but judging from how vibrant they were, Yin Yusheng was certain that these were mutant mosses. Even so, he could feel his energy was resonating with the mutant mosses. Following his instinct, he pulled out the cork stopper and unsealed the glass tube. The moment the tube was unsealed, the mosses suddenly moved. Seeing this, Yin Yusheng was startled and quickly put the cork stopper back. He thought that the mosses would stop moving. Unexpectedly, not only did it not stop, it started emitting gas that melted the glass tube. "Shit," he cursed and quickly put the glass tube into a glass jar. But before he could seal the jar, the mosses spread out at a fast speed. Noticing that he was in trouble, Yin Yusheng racked his brain to find a solution. Unfortunately, he was still a step too late. The mutant mosses spread on the ground and soon reached his toes. Then, it continued to spread, and in less than a minute, his whole body was covered by the mutant mosses. Yin Yusheng felt the burning pain on his skin and struggled to free himself. Suddenly, the mutant moss entered his body through the wounds. This time, the burning pain turned into bone-crushing pain. Falling onto the bed, Yin Yusheng gritted his teeth and breathed heavily as he endured the pain. He circulated his energy to fight against the mutant mosses, but instead of driving the mutant mosses out of his body, it devoured his wood energy instead. Time passed by and the pain inside him finally lessened. When he opened his eyes, the sky outside had turned dark. Lowering his gaze, he did not see any wounds. Instead, his dark, rough skin became smoother and tinted with a healthy glow. Recalling what happened, he checked his body and noticed another green light shimmering beside his little sunflower inside. Pushing himself up, he finally noticed that he was naked. Fortunately, he was alone. Otherwise, Zhou Huajian might think he was sick in the head. While he tried to analyze the situation, he changed into a set of clean clothes. Just after he was done, he heard a doorbell. "Who is it?" he asked. Opening the door, he saw Zhang Yuan and Chin Luzi standing outside. "Vice Captain Brother Chin, what brings you two here? Come in, please." Zhang Yuan handed a bag of food to him and said, "We did not see you in the cafeteria and thought that you might be hungry, so we brought some food for you." Holding the bag, Yin Yusheng closed the door and said, "Thank you, Vice Captain." While he went to make a cup of tea for them, both Zhang Yuan and Qin Luzi took a seat on the couch. Placing the teacups on the table, Yin Yusheng asked, "Brother Qin, have you solved the case about the zombie maggots?" Qin Luzi nodded and replied, "We found out that the zombie maggots were a premeditated scheme against our base. We caught 2 spies from the Jiangning city base this noon." Hearing this, Yin Yusheng was taken aback and said, "Isn't that the base under Pei Yijian's father? What is his purpose for doing this?" Zhang Yuan shook his head and replied, "We don't know about his purpose yet, but one thing is for sure. They are looking for the facility's test subject. Right now, we don't have any information about this test subject at all. So, Commander Zun asked us to help patrol the base until we caught all of the spies and found this test subject," he added. "Vice Captain, have you informed our members?" Yin Yusheng asked. "I already informed Mo Junji, Yixi, and Fu Guari. As for the rest of our members, I already informed Wen Kai and Chen Kaianfeng's team. They will return tomorrow afternoon at the latest after they collect more supplies." Zhang Yuan nodded. "What about the captain?" "I couldn't contact him. We will have to wait until he finishes the mission and returns first." After a moment of silence, Yin Yusheng asked, "How about the patrol schedule?" Hearing this, Qin Luzi took out a piece of paper from his pocket and said, "Here is the guards' patrol schedule and the areas they cover. Since our team is not working under the commander, we can plan our own schedule." Yin Yusheng read the information for a while before he said, "Most of their patrolling areas are around the wall, central ring, second ring, and third ring. Then, we should focus on the fourth ring and underground areas." Zhang Yuan nodded in agreement and added, "I plan to check the underground tunnel and water channel tomorrow." "Vice Captain, it's too dangerous to go alone. I will go with you," Yin Yusheng said. "Okay," Zhang Yuan agreed readily. "I won't go with you. I have something to discuss with Mo Junji tomorrow," Qin Luzi said. When they heard this, both Zhang Yuan and Yin Yusheng exchanged glances but said nothing. After they finished the discussion, they left. Since he was feeling weak, Yin Yusheng finished his meal, took a shower, and went to sleep. The moment he fell into a deep sleep, a soft green light emitted from his body. The energy seeping out from the crystal core swallowed by Kui was absorbed by his core and the mutant moss. As his core continued absorbing the energy, the barrier of his energy pool expanded and showed a sign of breaking through. The process continued for the whole night until sunrise. The moment he woke up, Yin Yusheng frowned when he smelled the nauseating, sour scent coming from his body. Opening his eyes, he was surprised to find his body covered by a thick layer of black, sticky liquid. Springing up from his bed, he saw his bed cover stained with the sticky liquid and let out a groan. Huajian will kill me if he finds out I ruined the bed." Without wasting time, he quickly went to take a shower and change the bed cover, quilts, and pillowcases. When he was done, it was already 8 o'clock in the morning. Carrying his backpack and weapons, he left and went to the cafeteria. Meanwhile, in the cafeteria, Cheng Rui and Cheng Yue were having their meal when they noticed the members of the Phantom team. Swallowing the food in his mouth, Cheng Rui nudged his brother and said, Yue, aren't those people the ones who killed the mutant plant with us yesterday?" Hearing this, Cheng Yue raised his gaze from his food and replied with a soft hum. Narrowing his eyes, Cheng Rui pointed at Yin Yusheng and asked, "Hey, do you notice something different with that guy?" This time, Cheng Yue followed the direction he was pointing at and replied nonchalantly, "He might have broken through. Judging from his aura, he should be a level 2 ability user now." A level 2 wood-type ability user. Even in the facility, not many wood-type ability users managed to reach level 2 in just a few months, Cheng Rui muttered with doubts. "Did you forget that we didn't find the mutant banyan tree's crystal core?" Cheng Yue reminded him. The moment he heard this, Cheng Rui slapped his thigh and exclaimed softly, "So that's the reason. He must be using that crystal core to break through." After a moment of realization, he frowned and added, "But that was a level 4 crystal core. Even if he used it, his body as a level 1 ability user wouldn't be able to handle it. He would explode from the excess energy." Cheng Yue glanced at Yin Yusheng's smiling face and narrowed his eyes. He saw the little sunflower emerging from his body yesterday. Before that sunflower disappeared, it swallowed the crystal core. Maybe the reason why he could absorb the level 4 crystal core's energy was due to that little sunflower's help. If that was the case, then how could he control that sunflower? Also, where did he hide the sunflower? While he was lost in thought, Cheng Rui had already waved his hand and shouted, "Vice Captain Zhang Yuan, over here." Zhang Yuan heard someone calling out to him and turned around. When he saw that it was the brothers who had teamed up with them yesterday, he walked over and took a seat across from them. Placing his tray on the table, he greeted them with a smile. What a coincidence. Cheng Rui grinned and said, "It's hard to get a spot during mealtime, so we came earlier." Since most of the tables were full, the members of the Phantom team didn't refuse and sat at the same table with the Cheng brothers. While they were chatting casually, Fu Guari walked into the cafeteria and went to buy some food. The moment Cheng Yue saw him, surprise flashed in his eyes. Even though the man looked different from what he had seen in the facility, he was sure that he wasn't mistaken. He lowered his head to hide his surprise and thought, why did Subject 88 appear here? Also, wasn't he half zombie? How come he looked like a human now? Did the facility really succeed in their experiment? Cheng Rui noticed his brother's absent-mindedness and kicked him under the table. Startled by his kick, Cheng Yue snapped out of his thoughts and looked at him. "What are you thinking about?" Cheng Rui asked in a low voice. Before he could answer, Fu Guari had already walked over to their table and sat beside Zhang Yuan. "Comrade Cheng, this is my team member, Fu Guari. Both of you met him yesterday," he introduced them. Hearing this, Cheng Yue nodded at him but said nothing. Yesterday, they hadn't gone in the same car, and he hadn't paid attention to the others since they were on a mission. Recalling how Fu Guari fought yesterday, he glanced at his fingers and realized that even if he looked like a human now, he was still a mutant. Reaching this conclusion, the hope in his eyes faded away. Since they had things to do after they finished their breakfast, everyone dispersed and went to do their own things. After returning to their house, Cheng Rui couldn't help but turn to his brother and ask, "Yue, is something wrong with that Fu Guari?" Cheng Yue hesitated for a moment before he replied, "If I remember correctly, Fu Guari is one of the facility's experimental subjects. I saw him half a year ago in the laboratory." Hearing this, Cheng Rui's eyes widened as he asked, Yue, are you sure? Those who were sent into the laboratory mostly became mutants. How can he look so normal?" "I'm not sure either, but if he is able to recover, then there might be a chance for us to recover too," Cheng Yue replied. When he heard this, Cheng Rui went silent for a while before he said, "Yue, I don't want to recover." Cheng Yue was stunned by his words and asked, Rui, what do you mean by that?" Clenching his fists, Cheng Rui said, "If we recover, we will lose our abilities. I don't want to end up as an ordinary person." Raising his gaze, he looked into his brother's eyes and continued, Yue, you know that in our current situation, only the strong can survive. If we lose our abilities, we will be bullied and might end up losing our lives. Rui, you know clearly that our condition is not something you and I can control forever. We might have a strong ability, but it's a double-edged sword, Cheng Yue said with a deep frown. Seeing that his brother was stubborn, he tried to persuade him. Rui, with our skills, we won't be bullied even without our abilities. But if we continue living like this, what if one day we are no longer able to control the power and turn into a mindless killing machine? Hearing this, Cheng Rui's eyes reddened, but he still gritted his teeth and replied stubbornly, "After what we experienced, it's only right for us to use this power. If one day I am no longer able to control my power, I will take my own life. I will never let them control me like a puppet and harm you." Meeting his brother's sharp gaze, Cheng Yue knew that it was useless to argue with him about this matter now. The most important thing to do was to find out how Subject 88 regained his consciousness and recovered. After a moment of silence, he let out a sigh and said, "Okay, let's discuss this matter another time." Since his brother had already taken a step back, Cheng Rui also dropped the matter. The two of them didn't take on any missions and decided to stay at home to rest today. While Cheng Yue was calculating their supplies and points, Cheng Rui suddenly asked, Yue, have you heard the news about the spies sent by Pei Zun?" Cheng Yue nodded and replied, "Those spies are not Pei Zun's people. They were sent by the facility. It is mostly the 11th Elder's order." "Do you mean the 11th Elder knew about Subject 88's location?" Cheng Rui asked with surprise. Cheng Yue nodded but said nothing. Cheng Rui thought for a moment and said, "If the 11th Elder already knows that his target is here, why doesn't he catch him directly? Why should he use Pei Zun as cover?" Hearing this, Cheng Yue replied, "Until today, no one knew the identity of the Elders, even between themselves. If the 11th Elder caught Subject 88 directly, he would expose his identity." While the facility was under the Elder's command, they were fighting with each other behind closed doors. If the other Elders learned about his identity, then he would lose a layer of protection and put his life in danger. When he heard this, Cheng Rui clicked his tongue and shook his head. I know the elders are nothing good, but I never expected them to be this rotten. They even killed their comrades. For people who use humans as experimental subjects without batting an eye, they are worse than demons, Cheng Yue replied coldly. Cheng Rui glanced at his brother when he noticed the killing intent in his voice. He didn't know what his brother had experienced during the 3 months he was brought to the laboratory, but judging from how much he hated the facility, it must have been a hellish experience. At the same time, Jin Zuyan, Zhao Lijai, and Du Bei finally cleared the zombies in the area near the hospital. With a swing, Jin Zuyan removed the black blood on his longsword and sheathed it. He checked the surroundings and said, "We only need to get the medicine and should be able to go back today." Zhao Lijai finished her water and nodded. "Brother Yan, I want to come back after we report our mission." When Jin Zuyan heard this, he knew that his fiancée wanted to clear the zombies and get more crystal cores. Compared to before, the number of level 2 zombies increased by at least 20%. With the addition of mutants, the danger outside the base was doubled. If they didn't lower the risk, the casualties of the mercenaries would be too high. With the population of women and children dropping sharply, humanity would face extinction if this situation continued. After reaching this conclusion, Jin Zuyan nodded and replied, "Okay, let's take a 15-minute break before we continue." The 3 of them went into a pharmacy and took a rest there. Zhao Lijai had already collected all the supplies in the buildings around this area. At this moment, the supplies inside her space were almost doubled. While they were resting, Jin Zuyan transferred his energy to his fiancée. In these past 2 days, Zhao Lijai continued draining her energy and expanded her energy pool. Right now, she only needed an opportunity to break through to level 3. Sitting not far from there, Du Bei drank her water and asked, "Crayon, have you checked her space?" Not long after, a mechanical voice echoed in her mind. "Host, the system has confirmed that her space was indeed Gaia. Can you enter Gaia's main system?" Without the host's permission, it's impossible to enter the main system. Although she had already expected this, Du Bei still felt disappointed. If they could enter Gaia's main system, they would be able to access the memory storage and find out what happened to her sister during their space jump. After a moment of silence, she said, "Did you get her DNA sample?" The system is currently running a DNA test between the host and the target. The test will be complete in 10 hours, Crayon replied. Now that they had managed to get Zhao Lijai's blood sample, she only needed to wait for the result to find out if she was her sister. Unlike ability users who needed to absorb the crystal cores to recover their energy, Du Bei could recover 60% of her energy by entering a sleep mode for 10 minutes. During this period, her body's functions would slow down, which allowed it to recover several times faster than when she was awake. While this method was effective, she could only use it when she was in a safe area, as she would lose all of her senses. Under normal circumstances, she would never enter sleep mode during a mission, but since she was with her father, she felt relaxed instinctively. Not long after she entered sleep mode, Zhao Lijai and Jin Zuyan were taken aback when they heard soft snoring coming from her. As they exchanged glances, she leaned closer to her fiancé and whispered, "Brother Yan, why do I feel that she trusts us too much?" When he heard this, Jin Zuyan let out a chuckle and replied, "I'm not sure either, but from what I observed in these past 2 days, she didn't harbor any bad intentions toward us. On the contrary, she seemed to be a little bit too enthusiastic toward you." Zhao Lijai recalled how Du Bei always stayed close to her when they fought the high-level zombies. At first, she thought that she only wanted to get some protection, as she was not an ability user. But after witnessing her combat strength, she was sure that Du Bei was more than capable of killing a high-level zombie by herself. Since Du Bei didn't seek protection, then the reason she stayed close to her was to protect her. But they were strangers who had just met for a few days, and she had no reason to protect her at all. After a while, an absurd thought flashed in Zhao Lijai's mind as she stared at her fiancé. "Brother Yan, maybe she treats me as her stepmother." As soon as she said these words, Jin Zuyan flicked her forehead and replied with a hint of helplessness and annoyance in his voice, "What nonsense are you saying? Don't tell me you really believe her words." Rubbing her forehead, Zhao Lijai shrugged and replied, "Who knows? Maybe she comes from the future and is indeed your daughter." Hearing this, Jin Zuyan shook his head and said, "If she is my daughter from the future, then her mother will only be you. Beside you, I will never like another person. let alone have a child with another woman, so stop overthinking. Zhao Lijai was only teasing him, so when she heard his solemn reply, she was stunned. Lowering her head to hide her embarrassment, she let out a soft "oh" and stopped talking. Noticing her shyness, Jin Zuyan smiled as he looked at her with a doting gaze. The two of them ate some crackers and drank a bottle of water in silence. When the break was over, Du Bei suddenly opened her eyes and stood up. The tiredness in her eyes had already disappeared, replaced with sharpness. Standing in front of them, she was full of energy when she said, "Captain, the break is over." From her behavior, Jin Zuyan was sure that she was someone who used to lead a team. The three of them left the small pharmacy and went to the hospital. Unlike other places, the number of zombies in the hospital was 3 times higher, but since the zombies inside the building weren't soaked in the rain, they were only normal zombies. With their current strength, Jin Zuyan and his team managed to clear all the zombies in less than 5 hours. When they were done collecting the medicines, machines, and medical tools, the sun had slanted to the west. Standing at the hospital's rooftop, Zhao Lijai checked her watch and said, "Brother Yan, if we use the military chopper, we can return in half an hour." Just after she said this, Jin Zuyan's satellite phone rang. Seeing that it was a call from Zhang Yuan, he picked it up and said, "What's up?" "Captain, Old Chin caught the Jiangning City base's spies yesterday and learned that they were looking for Subject 88, Zhang Yuan reported. When he heard this, Jin Zuyan narrowed his eyes. No one knew that Subject 88 was Fu Guari besides the facility, him, and Li Kixuan. It seemed that they couldn't stay in the Linen City base any longer. "Inform our members to pack up. We will leave in 2 days, he ordered. "Understood." After he hung up the call, Zhao Lijai took out a military chopper from her space. The 3 of them didn't delay any longer and returned to the base. At the same time in the Linen City base, Pei Yijun and his team had just arrived an hour ago and were resting inside one of the roadside stalls in the area, near the 4th ring gate. Li Yang finished a bowl of cold, sweet soup and let out a satisfied sigh before he said, "It's only several days after the zombie horde ended, but Linen Base has already recovered from the attack. I wonder how they do it." Hearing this, Pei Yijun lowered his eyelids and replied, "The main reason is the leaders know how to improve the living condition of the survivors and give them a place to call home." Chu Zhimiao nodded and added, "People will do their best to defend their home. Even if their home was destroyed, they would rebuild it again." When his team members heard this, they nodded in agreement. If not because their captain was the son of the Jiangning City base's commander, they also would have wanted to live in the Linen City base. While they were chatting, the stall's owner placed a basket of steamed corn buns on their table and said, "Comrade, you all must be tired from the long journey. We just received rations from the base, so these steamed buns are on the house." Before Pei Yijun could refuse, the stall owner had already walked away and tended to other customers. They looked at the warm steamed buns and licked their lips. While the steamed buns were made using more corn flour than wheat flour, they were much better than the hard, coarse-grained buns sold in their base. Pei Yijun always knew that his father prioritized the Pei family's benefit above the survivors' needs, but only now did he realize how wrong he was. His father not only sought profit by trampling on others' lives, he also selfishly used them to defend the base while preserving his army's strength. "It's no wonder she didn't want to return home," he muttered under his breath. "Brother Pei, what did you say?" Chu Zhimiao asked. Regaining his composure, Pei Yijun shook his head and replied, "Nothing. Let's eat before the food turns cold." The moment his team members heard this, they no longer hesitated and reached out to the steamed buns. Standing not far from them, one of the guards asked the stall owner, "Comrade, why did you give them the food for free? Even if we receive rations from the base, it's only enough for your family." The stall owner smiled when he heard this and replied, "When my family was still locked up in the capital base, my wife was sick and someone gave my son food, water, and medicine that saved her life. The one who saved my family is a member of the Phantom team. Because they are here, my family decided to stay in this base. They might be ability users and strong enough to get their own supplies, but from their eyes, I know that their lives are not better than ours. Maybe they would consider staying in our base after experiencing our hospitality," he added. When the guard heard the stall owner's words, he nodded with understanding and said, "No wonder the commander provides water and supplies for free. Well, even if the supplies and food given by the base are limited, it lessens our burden and also ensures us not starving to death. Compared to other places, the living conditions in our base are already 100 times better. the stall owner replied. While they were chatting, Aitg and his team members finished their meal. After paying for their meal, Aitg said, "Everyone, I'm going to visit the commander. All of you can go rest or tour the base. We will meet in the inn tonight." Understood, the members nodded in unison. Unlike the Phantom team who handed over their crystal cores to the team, the members of Aitg's team kept their own crystal cores. So the more they killed zombies during their missions, the more crystal cores they earned. As for the high-level crystal cores, they were handed to the team as member fees, since the team needed to hand part of their earnings to the base. After Aitg left, the members went to the marketplace, while Li Yang and Chu Zhimiao went to the infirmary located at the third ring. Even though they heard about how good the healers in the Linen City base were, they didn't dare to keep their hopes high. After all, no one was able to completely remove the zombie virus after infection. With the mindset of giving it a try, they entered the infirmary. It was a 3-story building where the emergency room and registration counter were located on the ground floor. The first floor was used for operating theaters and examination rooms. As for the second floor, it was used for inpatient wards. Seeing the number of patients, Chu Zhimiao said with surprise, "There are so many people here." Li Yang felt the burning pain inside him intensified and replied, "Let's register first." Okay. The two of them waited in line for half an hour before it was their turn. When the staff saw them, she smiled and greeted them. "Hello, comrade. What can I do for you?" "Hello, comrade. I heard that your healer can remove the zombie virus. We want to meet with that healer," Chu Zhimiao replied in a low voice. The moment she said this, everyone looked at them with fear. The staff scrutinized the two of them for a while before she asked, "May I ask who is the patient?" "It's me," Li Yang replied calmly. The staff observed him and didn't see any signs of mutation. Heaving a sigh of relief, she asked, "Do you have a permanent residence ID card?" Chu Zhimiao shook her head and replied, "No, we are coming from Jiangning." The staff nodded and handed them a card while saying, "This is your registration card. The registration is free, but you have to pay for the consultation and medicine later. You can go to the second floor and look for Dr. Jiang Lixin." Accepting the card, Chu Zhimiao nodded and replied, "Thank you." After getting their waiting number, Li Yang and Chu Zhimiao went up the stairs and went to the second floor. There were a total of 10 doctors' offices, 2 operating theaters, and 5 intensive care units. 5 minutes later, they found Jiang Lixin's office. Outside the office, there were at least 50 people waiting for their turns. Fortunately, there were benches there so they could rest while waiting for their turn. While they were waiting, Jiang Lixin had already received a phone call from the lobby. Since infection was not a small matter, she turned to her assistant and said, "Let the patient with infection enter first." The nurse nodded and replied, "Understood." Soon after, the nurse opened the office's door and said, "Comrade Li Yang, please come in." The moment they heard this, the patients waiting outside were unhappy. One of them stood up and asked with a frown, "Comrade, we came first and already waited for a long time. Why can they go in first when they just arrived?" Hearing this, the nurse turned to the patient and replied, "Comrade, we judge the case based on the urgency level. You are having a stomachache, but Comrade Li Yang is infected." When everyone heard this, they were shocked and one of them said, "If he is infected, he should be quarantined." Chu Zhimiao was angry when she heard this, but before she could argue with them, Li Yang stopped her and shook his head. "Myro Miao, ignore them." Noticing his pale face and cold palm, she quickly supported him as they entered the room, ignoring the gazes directed at them. "Doctor, please check on my friend," Chu Zhimiao said. Jiang Lixin walked over and said, "Put him on the bed." Reaching out, she held Li Yang's wrist. Using her energy, Jiang Lixin checked his condition. After a moment, she said, "Get 5 crystal cores from the drawer." The nurse nodded and went to fetch the crystal cores. In less than a minute, she handed the crystals to Jiang Lixin. After the experience of removing the zombie virus during the zombie horde, she was now more at ease when removing the zombie virus. Using her body, she transferred the pure energy from the crystal cores to Li Yang's body. When the amount of pure energy inside his body was enough, she used her own energy to guide the pure energy and started removing the zombie virus. An hour later, the zombie virus was removed from his internal organs and gathered in one spot. Using a sterile needle, she pricked Li Yang's fingertip and forced the black blood out. The nurse used a glass vial to store the black blood. 5 minutes later, the black blood had already changed into red. Seeing this, Jiang Lixin healed the wound and heaved a sigh of relief. The zombie virus has been removed completely, but his internal organs are damaged, so he needs to rest and nourish his body for at least a week, she said while wiping the sweat from her forehead. Hearing this, Chu Zhimiao glanced at Li Yang and asked, "Doctor, my friend is really okay now?" Jiang Lixin nodded and replied, "If it's not for his high cell regeneration rate, he would have turned into a zombie by now. But now that the zombie virus is no longer in his body, he will recover soon." After making sure that Li Yang was no longer in danger, Chu Zhimiao finally felt the heavy stone pressing on her heart was removed. She bowed to Jiang Lixin and said hoarsely, "Thank you for saving my friend's life, doctor." Jiang Lixin stepped aside to avoid her bow and reached out to help her up. "As a doctor, this is my duty. What's more, I didn't do it for free. You still have to pay for the consultation and treatment fee." Chu Zhimiao chuckled at her words and said, "I understand." The nurse wrote down the receipt and said, "Comrade, you can pay the bill at the counter in the lobby." "Thank you," Chu Zhimiao nodded before she carried Li Yang and left the room. As an ability user, carrying a man on her back was a small matter for her, but with their difference in body size, people would gaze at her whenever she walked past them. When the staff saw her carrying an unconscious man, she said, "Comrade, do you need a room for your friend?" Chu Zhimiao shook her head and replied, "No need, thank you." The staff nodded and checked the receipt for a moment before she said, "A total of 40 crystal cores, or 400 points." While the survivors were gasping from the high cost, Chu Zhimiao took out a handful of crystal cores from her backpack and paid without batting an eye. For her and Li Yang, who earned hundreds of crystal cores daily, the treatment fee was very cheap. After leaving the infirmary, they returned to the inn and stayed in their room. At the same time, Pei Yijun was sitting in Zun Qi's office. Sitting across from him, Zun Qi took a sip of his coffee and said with a smile, "Comrade Pei, instead of rebuilding your base, you come to visit my base instead." "I come to bring my sister back and to make a deal with you," Pei Yijun replied. Hearing this, Zun Qi let out a chuckle and asked, "Oh, what kind of deal do you have for me?" Pei Yijun took out a glass vial from his backpack and placed it on the table. Inside the glass vial was a crimson-colored liquid. The moment he saw this, Zun Qi narrowed his eyes and asked coldly, "Where did you get this elixir of immortality?" Noticing his agitation, Pei Yijun raised his eyebrows and said, "It seems that Commander Zun knows about this thing. Well, since you already know the benefits this thing can give you, it will be easier for us to talk. I have a total of 5 doses of elixir of immortality. As long as you help me take over Jiangning Base's command, you can have the elixirs." When he heard this, cold killing intent flashed in Zun Qi's eyes as he asked, "Do you know the main material to create this elixir?" Pei Yijun went silent for a moment before he replied, "No matter what the material is, the main point is that even just a drop of this elixir can save countless lives." After a moment of pause, he continued, "After facing the zombie horde, I believe that Commander Zun understood the importance of having a life-saving elixir. If you are lucky, you might be able to find out the components and produce this elixir." Zun Qi clenched his fists after hearing his words. While he loathed how those people used humans as materials to create this so-called elixir of immortality, he couldn't deny the fact that this elixir was indeed able to save countless lives if used correctly. After hesitating for a long time, he finally let out a long sigh and said, "I will send people to help you, but I won't interfere directly." Pei Yijun was satisfied with this and nodded, "I want the Phantom team." As soon as he finished his words, Zun Qi thought for a moment before he said, "The Phantom team is a mercenary team and not under my command. I can't make decisions for them. At most, I can only lend you 100 ability users under me." Pei Yijun tapped his fingers on the armrest for a while before he said, "Besides the ability users, I want 10,000 high-quality weapons." "Do you know how much that will cost me? One high-quality weapon costs 1,000 crystal cores. It's equivalent to 10 million crystal cores," Zun Qi replied with a frown. "Commander Zun, the value of this elixir is far above that price. You have to know that if this thing went into the market, it would be sold for 50 million crystal cores easily." Zun Qi frowned and considered the pros and cons for a long time before he nodded. "Okay, I will prepare the weapons. But you have to give me 1 year." Pei Yijun thought that it would take at least 2 years to prepare so many high-quality weapons. Unexpectedly, Zun Qi only needed 1 year. It seemed that the power of Linen Base was more than what he thought. Reaching out to pick up his teacup, He took a sip of his coffee before he said, I heard that Commander Zun found a way to plant crops, and the first harvest is in a few months. It's not a secret. After all, hydroponics was a method used since 100 years ago. I believe other leaders were also able to think about this method and use it sooner or later, Zun Qi replied casually. It's indeed as you said. Some bases already used this method, but none of them were able to achieve what your base could. Pei Yijun nodded in agreement. Noticing the hidden meaning in his words, Zun Qi asked, Are you planning to exchange the elixir with the farming method? When he heard this, Pei Yijun let out a chuckle and replied, This is why I like to talk with smart people. Placing his teacup on the table, Pei Yijun met Zun Qi's gaze and said, Besides the farming method, I want 30% of the first harvest. This time Zun Qi refused without hesitation. Impossible. Compared to crystal cores, food was more valuable. He believed that as long as he had enough supplies, it was not a problem to get 1 or 2 doses of the elixir. Using so much food to exchange for 5 doses was not worth it. Pei Yijun knew that his demand was too much, but after he took over the base, the most urgent matter was supplies. So he had no other choice but to thicken his face and voice his demand. Sensing that Zun Qi would not agree to this, he let out a sigh and said, Commander Zun, if you think that 30% is too much, I will accept 20%. Zun Qi observed Pei Yijun for a while before he said, Comrade Pei, at most I can give you 0.5%. The moment he heard this, Pei Yijun frowned. Commander Zun, are you sending off a beggar? He asked. Comrade Pei, after you visit my base's farmland, you will not think that 0.5% is a small amount, Zun Qi said casually as he stood up. Feeling curious after hearing his words, Pei Yijun followed him as he said, In that case, I should see for myself. Half an hour later, they arrived at the farmland area. As soon as they came out of the car, a group of people and several guards walked over. After exchanging greetings, a man in his 40s stepped forward and asked, Commander, after we received your visit, we had been waiting. Commander, is there any urgent matter? Uncle Huang, we came here to check on the farmland. Is everything going well? Zun Qi asked. When he heard this, Huang Kai nodded and replied with a bright smile, Commander, everything is going according to our plan. In the last month, we have been harvesting lettuce, and the daily yield is around 4.5 kilograms per square meter. Besides lentils that need 2 more weeks, other crops are already mature and ready to be harvested. Hearing this, Zun Qi nodded and said, If the manpower is not enough, just inform Wen Hanli and hire more people to help with the harvest. It is still manageable for now, but I will definitely ask for more people if needed, Huang Kai replied. After a brief conversation, the group went to the farmland area. At this moment, the harvest was in full swing. When Pei Yijun saw the vast area filled with matured paddy, he was stunned. As far as he could see, yellow paddy was in sight. Feeling excitement bubbling inside his heart, he walked to the nearby paddy and pinched the ears. Staring at the plump grains on his palm, it took him a while to regain his composure. At this moment, the images of the survivors' healthy complexions and bright smiles flashed in his mind. Compared to the residents of the Jiangning city base, the residents of the Linen city base were stronger and happier. No wonder they could recover so fast, he muttered softly. Not catching what he was saying, Zun Qi turned to him and asked, Comrade Pei, is something wrong? Pei Yijun put the grains of rice in his pocket and replied, It is nothing. As they toured the farmland area, he asked, How long will it take for the crops to mature and be ready for harvest? Most of the crops take around 2 months to be ready for harvest. Only lentils need around 80 days. As for lettuce, it only needs 3 weeks to be ready for harvest, Huang Kai replied. Afterward he turned to Zun Qi and added, Commander, we received more seeds in the past few days. We plan to expand the farmland area and increase the variety. Zun Qi had already received the report about this plan, but he still asked, What seeds did you get? Vice Commander Wen sent spinach, bok choy, basil, mint, chives, cucumber, various species of chili pepper, and also wheat and barley, Huang Kai replied, with excitement clear on his face. Commander, if we are able to plant the crops this year, we will not have to worry about lacking vegetables or staples next year, he added. Zun Qi knew the importance of having more food, so he was also eager to expand the farmland. But no matter how eager he was, he still had to consider this matter logically. The problem they faced was not about lacking seeds, hydroponic tools, or planting area, but water. Right now, even after hiring more water-type ability users, they barely reached the minimum requirement for daily water usage. If they expanded the farm, the water needed daily would increase. By then, if they could not provide enough water, the yield during harvest would lessen and the quality of the crops would drop. Rather than forcing themselves to expand the farmland and end up wasting seeds, it was better to focus on their current farmland. After they got more water-type ability users, they would expand the farmland slowly. After he considered the pros and cons, Sun Chi said, "We will discuss this matter later. Right now, focus on harvesting the crops first." Even though Huang Kai was disappointed, he knew that this matter could not be rushed, so he did not insist and nodded, "Understood." An hour later, they finally finished inspecting the farmland and reservoir area. Only after he saw it with his own eyes did Pei Yijun believe that 0.5% of the total harvest was not little. For rice alone, 0.5% of the total harvest would be around 500,000 tons. After the zombie horde, the total residents of the Jiangning city base were left with around 70,000 people. Assuming that everyone received 300 grams of rice daily, the amount could last them for more than 65 years. When he reached the conclusion, Pei Yijun finally heaved a sigh of relief. They could use vacuum packaging and store the rice in a cool, dry place, and it would be able to last for 30 years. In the next 3 decades, he would not have to worry about his people starving. After leaving the farmland area, both Pei Yijun and Sun Chi returned to the central command office. When he finished a glass of water, Pei Yijun said, "Commander Sun, I agree with 0.5% of the total first harvest." Sun Chi smiled when he heard this and said, "When the harvest is done, I will inform you." Pei Yijun nodded and handed a vial to him while saying, "This is the down payment. I will give you another dose after I receive the food, and another after I receive the weapons. When I take over the Jiangning city base, I will give you the rest." Sun Chi had no objection to this arrangement and nodded, "I have no problem with it." After they reached an agreement, Pei Yijun left the office while Sun Chi sent the elixir of immortality to the laboratory for testing. Meanwhile, Jin Zuyan, Zhao Lijai, and Du Bei had finished reporting the mission and were already back at their home. Before they even opened the door, they saw the door across from them open a crack and Fu Guari's lifeless eyes staring at them. Startled by how haggard he looked, Jin Zuyan walked over and asked, "What's wrong?" At first he thought that something had happened during his mission, and his body was affected. After all, he was half zombie, half human. No one knew how his body would mutate in the future. Not noticing his friend's worries, Fu Guari typed on his phone and showed it to him. The moment Jin Zuyan read the message, the corner of his lips twitched as he tried his best to control his expression. Rubbing his forehead, he said, "You said that Yusheng's sunflower took your mutant plant core, and you want me to bring justice to you. Do you have any evidence?" Fu Guari frowned when he heard this and shook his head. After a moment, he typed on his phone again. "Even without evidence, I'm sure it was that sunflower who took my crystal core. Besides that plant, no one would take my crystal core." Noticing his stubbornness, Jin Zuyan thought for a moment before he said, "Let me take a shower first, then we will go visit Yusheng." Fu Guari nodded and closed the door with a soft thud. Standing not far from him, Zhao Lijai chuckled as she said, "Brother Fu looks so wronged. That crystal core must be important to him." Jin Zuyan let out a long sigh when he heard this and replied, "For him, even a level 1 crystal core is important." Recalling that Fu Guari had to rely on the crystal cores to survive, Zhao Lijai understood his meaning. Unlike them, Du Bei had no interest in Fu Guari's matters and was currently waiting for the test result. The 3 of them took a shower and had a meal. After they were done, Du Bei went to sleep while Zhao Lijai and Jin Zuyan went to visit Yin Yusheng, together with Fu Guari. 10 minutes later, they stood at Yin Yusheng and Zhou Huajian's apartment door. Reaching out, Zhao Lijai pressed the doorbell and waited. After a few minutes, she pressed the bell again. They waited for 10 minutes, but no one opened the door. As they exchanged glances, she said, "Maybe Brother Yin is not at home." Just after she said this, Qin Luzi returned with a bag of groceries. When he saw them, he asked, "Captain, what brings you here?" "I came to look for Yusheng." Hearing this, Qin Luzi checked the map in his mind and said, "He is inside." "Weird, if he is inside, why didn't he open the door? We pressed the doorbell several times and waited for 10 minutes, but there was no sound coming from inside," Zhao Lijai said with a frown. Noticing that something was wrong, Jin Zuyan broke open the door. The moment they saw the scene inside, they were stunned. The walls and corners were covered with a layer of moss, while the plants in the pots had grown like crazy. It was as if someone had injected steroids into them, as the scallions were as thick as an adult's arm. After a moment, Qin Luzi said, "Yusheng is in the bedroom." The group quickly went to the room and were shocked to find Yin Yusheng sleeping soundly, while his entire body was wrapped by vines, leaves, and moss. Jin Zuyan walked over and patted Yin Yusheng's cheek to wake him up. "Yusheng, wake up." After a few minutes, Yin Yusheng finally stirred and opened his eyes. When he met his captain's worried gaze, he asked hoarsely, "Captain, why are you here?" Seeing that he was sober, Jin Zuyan used his energy to check on his condition while asking, "Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" Yin Yusheng had not yet recovered his senses and replied dazedly, "I'm fine." When he raised his gaze, he was taken aback as he saw that the house was covered with plants and moss. It took him a while to regain his composure and he asked, "Captain, what's going on here?" "I should ask you about this matter instead. What's going on here?" Jin Zuyan asked. Zhao Lijai observed the surroundings and asked, "Brother Yin, can you control the plants and the moss?" Hearing this, Yin Yusheng just realized that he could feel the energy pulsating in the plants and moss. Focusing his mind, he tried to absorb the wood energy in the air. The next moment, the moss and plants shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye. While the plants returned to normal, the moss turned into a small patch and entered his body. Seeing this, Zhao Lijai thought of some wood-type ability users in her previous life who were able to control plants and asked, "Brother Yin, did you gain a new plant?" "Oh, I did get a mutant moss during my mission with the vice captain. Also, I reached level 2 this morning," Yin Yusheng replied. As soon as he finished his words, Fu Guari's face darkened. He typed furiously on his phone before showing it to him. "Where is my mutant plant's crystal core?" When Yin Yusheng read the message, he scratched his head. Due to guilt, he avoided eye contact with Fu Guari and said, "Brother, I'm sorry. Your crystal core was eaten by my Kui. Fu Guari was stunned when he heard this. He knew that the possibility of his crystal core being gone was very high, but he never expected a little sunflower to eat it. Noticing how sad he was, Zhao Lijai took out several level 4 crystal cores from her space and handed them to him. "Here, take it as compensation. These are level 4 crystal cores." Seeing the crystal cores, Fu Guari's eyes lit up. The reason why he wanted the mutant plant's crystal core was because of the pure energy it contained. Since the crystal cores given by Zhao Lijai contained more pure energy, he was more than happy to exchange 1 crystal for 6 crystals. "Thank you, little plant," he exclaimed inwardly. After resolving the problem, Zhao Lijai took a bag of seeds from her space and handed them to Yin Yusheng while saying, "Brother Yin, since your ability is inducing the growth of plants, you can use these seeds to practice your ability." Unlike Zhou Huajian, who could drain his energy by fighting zombies, Yin Yusheng fought using weapons, so he did not have the chance to train his ability at all. Hearing Zhao Lijai's suggestion, his eyes flashed with realization and he said, "Thank you, sister-in-law, I will practice hard." "You just had a breakthrough, use your free time to consolidate your power first," Jin Zuyan said. Understood. Since he was fine, the group left Yin Yusheng's house and returned to their own. In the afternoon, the rest of the Phantom team members finally returned to the base. At this moment, the teams under Wen Kai and Chen Qianfeng were reporting their mission in the mission hall. When the staff saw them, she greeted them with a smile. "Comrade Wen, Comrade Chen, welcome back." "Comrade, we come to report our mission." Wen Kai nodded at her and handed her their ID card. "Please wait a moment," the staff said as she checked their mission in the database. Not long after, she returned the ID card and said, "Comrade, both of you took an A-rank mission, collecting 50,000 kilograms of supplies." Chen Qianfeng nodded when he heard this and replied, "My team found all-purpose flour and brown rice. My team found canned food, dairy products, meat products, powdered eggs, and various snacks. I wonder if these supplies can be counted as completing the mission," Wen Kai asked. As soon as he said this, the staff and everyone around them were delighted. It seemed that they would be able to have meat dishes this month. "Of course, we have a clear list to make it easier for us to compare the value of the supplies," the staff replied. "Good, then please have someone check the supplies," Wen Kai nodded. Under everyone's curious gaze, Zyro Kai and Feng Yun went to the warehouse, followed by one staff member from the mission hall and 2 staff members from the logistics department. As for the rest of the team, they returned to their home. When they arrived at the warehouse area, the guards' eyes lit up the moment they saw the 2 of them. As they walked closer, the guards saluted them and one of them said, "Comrade Zyro, Comrade Feng, welcome back." "Thank you," Zyro Kai returned their salute and gave them a box of dried nuts. When the staff saw this, they finally understood why the guards were so enthusiastic toward the members of the Phantom team. Although one box only had a total of 25 packs of dried nuts, each pack weighed around 50 grams. Before the apocalypse, this kind of gift might have offended others, but in the apocalypse, dried nuts were a rare commodity. The guards were not polite and accepted the gift while thanking them. Used to Zyro Kai's generosity, Feng Yun said nothing. For their team, this kind of snack was nothing, but for others, it might be able to save their lives during an emergency. Due to the amount of supplies they brought back, the staff led them to a separate area in the warehouse district. Pointing at the building, one of the staff members said, "Comrade Zyro, Comrade Feng, you can take out the supplies here." Both Zyro Kai and Feng Yun were already familiar with the procedures. The 2 of them split up and entered the warehouse. While they took out the supplies from their spaces, the staff recorded it. The additional rewards would be given based on the excess above the minimum requirement. An hour later, they finally finished the task. It was not that Zyro Kai and Feng Yun needed to rest, but because the staff needed to record the supplies. Walking out of the almost full warehouse, the staff from the mission hall said, "Comrade Zyro, Comrade Feng, after we calculate the points, we will send them to the Phantom team's account." Feng Yun nodded at her words and replied, "Thank you for your hard work." Recalling that the staff had a 2-year-old daughter at home, he took out 2 cans of milk powder for Barbies under 3 years old from his space and handed them to her. Before the staff could react, he had already left with Zyro Kai. Seeing the gift, the other staff members let out an envious sigh, and one of them said, "Everyone said that the members of the Phantom team are arrogant, cruel, and cold-blooded, but only those who knew them truly understood their kindness, bravery, and generosity." The woman nodded when she heard this as her eyes reddened. Milk powder was always in short supply, even if the price was expensive. She needed to save for a long time and use some connections before she was able to buy a can of milk for her daughter. So she understood the value of these 2 cans of milk powder. Since they still had work to do, the staff did not stay for long and returned to write their daily report. Thanks to the new supplies brought back by the guards and the mercenary teams, the food sold in the cafeteria improved. Once every 3 days, the cooks would prepare 1 meat dish. As for their daily meals, the base had already started harvesting vegetables and fruits, so they would be able to get 2 vegetarian dishes with noodles, steamed rice, or steamed buns. Sometimes they would be able to have rare dishes such as fish, shrimp, crabs, or seafood. No one knew where the base got the ingredients, but the taste was heavenly. The downside was only the high price. Meanwhile, Dubei was frowning as she sat on the bed. She read the DNA test result again before she muttered to herself, "How can it be possible?" As if noticing its host's doubts and confusions, Crayon replied, "Host, the sample had undergone DNA mutation more than 3 times. The result of the DNA test is no longer accurate." When she heard this, Dubei let out a long sigh and cursed, "Damn it, it's all those bugs' fault. If I see them, I will blow their nasty heads off." Crayon went silent for a moment before it asked, "Host, what are your next plans?" Dubei shook her head and said, "Without enough energy, not to mention returning to our timeline, we can't even fully activate the system. For now, we can only take a step at a time. Host, based on the system's calculation, as long as you are able to stop Shrotam from destroying the world, this planet is a better option than our home planet." "Crayon, don't you know how strong Shrotam is? Do you think with my current strength, I will be able to stop him if he wants to destroy this planet?" Dubei asked with raised eyebrows. According to the historical data, one of the reasons for a human to destroy something was due to hatred, anger, frustration, sadness, or other negative emotions. Unless Shrotam is a madman or a psychopath, as long as you can make sure that Shrotam does not have these emotions, you might be able to stop the destruction. Dubei thought for a while before she nodded and said, "Crayon, if you didn't say it, I might not have noticed this point. During these past days, I noticed that whenever Shrotam was with Zhao Lijai, his mood was always good. Maybe we can start from her." "Host, you are a genius," Crayon replied mechanically. "Enough with the flattery. How much energy do we have right now?" Dubei asked. Due to the energy consumption during the DNA test, we consumed a total of 6% of the energy. Right now, we only have 21.7% energy. Hearing this, Dubei's eyes lit up, and she asked, "Does that mean I can access the system warehouse now?" "Host, you can only access the first level of the warehouse," Crayon replied. Recalling that the items stored in the first level were the daily necessities, nutrient solutions, water, medicines, and low-grade weapons, Dubei finally smiled and said, "Open the warehouse." The next moment, a blue screen appeared in front of her. On the blue screen were countless small boxes, similar to her inventory bag. But unlike her inventory bag with limited slots, the warehouse was a four-dimensional space that could store unlimited items. In the entire civilization, only her system, Nishkrayan, had a warehouse function. With her system's energy above 20%, she could access the second inventory bag now. Since she arrived in this place, her system's energy fluctuated too much. In order to avoid a similar situation as before, she quickly moved the medicines, nutrient solutions, and water into her inventory bag. As for the rest, those things were not too important during an emergency. Only after she filled the inventory bag did she let out a long sigh and say, "With these items, I won't have to worry if I'm unable to access the warehouse again." After she finished arranging her items, Dubei left the house and went to the marketplace. At the same time, Chu Zhimia was counting the crystal cores inside one of the inn's rooms when she noticed Li Yang waking up. She put the crystal cores back into the pouch and walked to the bed. Sitting on the chair beside the bed, she held his hand and said, "Li Yang, you have finally woken up. Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" Hearing her voice, Li Yang opened his heavy eyelids and shook his head. "I'm fine." Chu Zhimiao noticed that he wanted to sit up and reached to help him. After she placed a pillow on his back, she handed a bottle of water to him and said, "Drink some water first." Li Yang was indeed feeling thirsty and hungry. In several gulps, he finished the entire bottle. Finally feeling alive, he said, "Miro, I'm hungry." When she heard this, Chu Zhimiao smiled and said, "I will go get you something." "Thank you." After he was alone, Li Yang used his energy to check his condition. Besides some injuries caused by the zombie virus, the rot had finally stopped. There was also no longer a trace of the zombie virus in his blood. With his current condition, he would need at least a month before he could fully recover. Clenching his fist, he realized that his strength had returned by more than half. While he was resting, Chu Zhimiao was on her way to the cafeteria. Due to the increase of the population, the base opened 2 more cafeterias in the second ring area and the fourth ring area. Compared to the other areas, the cafeteria in the fourth ring area was several times bigger. Today was the special dish day, so the cafeteria was packed with people even when it was only 3 o'clock in the afternoon. When she was lining up, she heard the conversation around her. "I wonder what meat dish we will have for dinner," a burly man said while patting his stomach. "I heard from my friend who works in the logistics department. The Phantom team brought back lots of good stuff. I hope we will be able to get some canned fruits tonight," another man whispered. Because everyone stood closely, even if the man already lowered his voice, the people nearby were still able to hear his words. The moment they got the information, they stretched their necks to check the line. Although the cafeteria limited the purchase and each of them could only buy 1 portion of special dishes, the amount of the special dishes was far than enough to meet the demand. Half an hour later, Chu Zhimiao finally reached the counter. As expected, there were 2 special dishes for tonight, grilled sausage with cheese and fruit soup. When she saw the dishes, surprise flashed in Chu Zhimiao's eyes. She thought that even if the base was willing to sell a meat dish in the cafeteria, the amount of meat would only be 1/10 compared to other ingredients. Unexpectedly, not only did they give 2 grilled sausages with a piece of cheese, but they even added milk to the fruit soup. "Comrade, what do you want to buy?" the cafeteria staff asked. "I want 2 portions of each dish and 20 steamed buns. Please pack it up for me," Chu Zhimiao ordered as she salivated. Hearing this, the cafeteria staff said, "Comrade, you can only buy 1 portion of the special dish." Chu Zhimiao nodded and replied, "Then give me 1 portion each." "Do you bring your own food box or do you want to borrow from the cafeteria?" the staff asked again. "I don't have any food boxes." The staff nodded and said, "Comrade, you have to pay 1 point for 1 food box if you borrow it from the cafeteria." "Okay." 5 minutes later, the staff handed her 2 plastic bags and said, please pay at the counter. Thank you. Chu Zhimiao lined up at the counter. When it was her turn, the staff checked her order and said, Comrade, the total is 77 points. When Chu Zhimiao heard this, she said, Comrade, I don't have points. Can I pay with crystal cores? Sure, one level 1 crystal core is equal to 20 points. You only need to give me 4 crystal cores, the staff nodded. This time, Chu Zhimiao was shocked by how cheap the food in this base was. In the Jiangning City base, 3 coarse-grained steamed buns cost 2 crystal cores. Compared to the white, big steamed buns sold here, it was clear that the amount and the quality of ingredients used were vastly different. This kind of food could only be enjoyed by the higher-ups or important people in her base. Seeing that she was stunned, the staff thought that she didn't have enough crystal cores and asked with a frown, Comrade, do you still want the food? Coming back to her senses, Chu Zhimiao quickly nodded, paid for the food and left the cafeteria. Fearing that Li Yang would be hungry, she hastened her pace and returned to the inn in less than 15 minutes. Opening the door, she said, Li Yang, look what I bought for you. Li Yang had just finished taking a bath and was only wearing his pants. Seeing her come back, he wiped his hair with a towel a few times and took a seat across from her. Staring at the dishes, he exclaimed in surprise, Myro Miao, where did you get these? Chu Zhimiao was already used to him not wearing clothes during the summer, so she only glanced at his abs for a moment before averting her gaze. She handed a pair of chopsticks to him and said, I bought it at the cafeteria. After a moment of pause, she asked with a grin, Li Yang, can you guess how much I spent to get this food? When Li Yang heard this, he hesitated for a moment before he asked her back, Myro Miao, tell me, did you spend all of our crystal cores? Do you think I'm stupid? Chu Zhimiao asked while rolling her eyes when she noticed his worries. I didn't say that, you said it yourself, Li Yang muttered under his breath. Catching his words, she kicked his leg lightly and said, I spent 4 level 1 crystal cores. If we had points, it would only cost 77 points. Li Yang was surprised and asked with disbelief, so cheap. Noticing his doubts, Chu Zhimiao swallowed the food in her mouth and let out a sigh. I also found it unbelievable at first, but it's indeed only 77 points. We can also exchange 1 level 1 crystal core for 20 points. Glancing at her, Li Yang asked, Myro Miao, do you want to stay here? It would be a lie if I said I don't want to, but Brother Pei treats us so well. I can't bring myself to leave the team when he needs us. If not for Brother Pei, both of us might not have survived this long, Chu Zhimiao replied. Recalling what they experienced since the apocalypse until now, Li Yang went silent. With the heavy atmosphere, the two of them stopped talking and ate in silence. At the same time, Du Bai was setting up her stall in the marketplace. Since she was selling weapons and medicines, she didn't place her goods in the store owned by her team. After she placed a piece of black fabric on top of the wooden table, she took out several D-grade weapons from her warehouse. These weapons were faulty products made during her training back when she was still studying in the academy. Since she had paid for the materials, it would be a waste to throw them away, so she stored them in her warehouse. If not for what happened, she would never have thought of selling these bad products. When she was done, Du Bai took out a low stool and a book from her inventory. She thought that it would take a long time for her to sell these weapons. Unexpectedly, just after she opened her book, a couple walked over. The man pointed at a pair of soft swords and asked, Comrade, can these swords be used in actual combat? Hearing this question, Du Bai nodded and replied, these swords were made with special materials. Not only was the sword soft and flexible, it also had good durability. The materials are sturdy and won't easily break. As for the sharpness, it can cut a strand of hair in half without a problem. The moment they heard this, the couple exchanged surprised gazes. If what she said was true, then this pair of swords were rare items. It should be the legendary customized weapons the base sold. After all, everyone knew that a soft sword was only good for a modern wushu competition, and was unsuitable for real combat. Thinking that the couple didn't believe her words, Du Bai stood up and said, I can test it out for you. Without waiting for their replies, she reached out and unsheathed a sword with a similar design to a tang blade. With a sharp, clean, high-pitched sound, the blade glistened under the sunset. This time, everyone was attracted by the quality of the sword and came over to watch the commotion. Du Bai took out a piece of silver rock from her warehouse and placed it on the table. Pointing at the rock, she said, This is the strongest material on Earth, tungsten. As soon as she finished her words, she swung the sword, and with a loud sound, the sword cut off a piece of the metal as easily as cutting mud. Everyone gasped sharply when they saw this. Dubé placed the sword on the table and picked up the soft sword. This time, her movement was faster, and before everyone could react, the sword had already cut through the metal. Thud! As she sheathed the soft sword, the metal was cut in half. She met the couple's surprised gaze and asked, "Can I borrow a strand of your hair?" The girl quickly nodded, pulled a strand of her hair, and handed it to her. Under everyone's gaze, Dubé let go of the hair, and the moment it touched the blade, the hair was split in half. This time, one of the onlookers couldn't help but exclaim in shock, "Shit, this soft sword is not only strong and durable, it can even cut a hair in half." When she was done demonstrating her products, Dubé stored the metals into her warehouse and sat on her low stool. Picking up her book, she said, "Now that you already see the quality of my goods, do you want to buy the soft swords?" The couple was pulled out of their thoughts by her words. Fearing that they would miss the opportunity to get their hands on these customized weapons, the man quickly asked, "Comrade, how do you want to sell the weapons?" Dubé was planning to clear her warehouse and sell the sword for 500 points each, but when she saw that a lot of people were interested in her goods, she changed her mind. After a moment of silence, she said, "The weapons will go to the highest bidder." As soon as she said this, everyone was in an uproar. It was the first time that someone was willing to sell such a great weapon, so even if the price was high, they were determined to buy it. "Comrade, I'm willing to pay 5,000 points for the Tang blade," one of the onlookers suddenly said. The next moment, a woman said, "Comrade, I'm willing to pay 500 crystal cores for the Tang blade." Compared to the points, crystal cores were better in value as they were a universally acknowledged currency everywhere. What's more, the price she offered was double the price the man offered. Following the woman, several people started bidding for the Tang blade. In less than 10 minutes, the price had already reached 12,000 crystal cores and ended up being bought by a middle-aged man. The man took out a small bag and said, "Inside this bag, there are 1 level 4 crystal core, 6 level 3 crystal cores, 150 level 2 crystal cores, and 2,800 level 1 crystal cores." Scanning complete. Host, the number is correct. According to the exchange rate of the crystal cores, the number was indeed correct. With Crayon counting the crystal cores for her, Dubé didn't have to count and said, "The sword is yours." The middle-aged man grinned widely as he walked away with the sword. He had planned to buy customized weapons from the base, but the base stopped selling the weapons until the next 2 years. So the moment he encountered such a good weapon, he was willing to spend almost all of his money. With a good weapon, he would be able to kill more zombies and earn back the money spent tonight. With one sword being sold, everyone became restless. The news of someone selling customized weapons in the marketplace spread to the entire base in less than 2 hours. As more people joined the auction, the price skyrocketed together with Dubé's good mood. When the last weapon was sold, everyone finally left. Checking her watch, she realized that it was already 10 o'clock in the evening. After she packed up her stall, she noticed the couple was still there. The woman was crying while the man was coaxing her. "All right, don't cry. The price is too high, we can't afford it. Let's find another weapon tomorrow, okay?" Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like the video and comment down if anything wrong in the story.